The pitch a little earlier, Jim. What do you reckon?
Well, Richie, if the batsmen play sensibly, there are some big scores to be had out here. For the seam bowlers, there won't be any great movement in this pitch, but there might be just enough if they can keep the ball in the right place. There could be some spin from the start, and as the match progresses, the ball will begin to turn a lot more. A tough call, perhaps a good toss to lose. Well, that's the state of the pitch. Back to you, Richie.
So, we're all ready for the first ball of the innings. That's the first boundary for Gilchrist. Australia, no wicket for 4. Australia move on to 5. Hit straight to a fielder. Srinath to bowl to Gilchrist. Srinath to Gilchrist. Didn't quite get hold of that one properly. Hayden is off the mark. Gilchrist is now facing. .49 overs are left in the innings. .304 runs required. Hit straight to a fielder. Those are the first runs for Ganguly. Hit straight to a fielder. That's a lovely way to get off the mark. .49 overs are left in the innings.
The fielding restrictions provide the opportunity for attacking batsmen to score some fast early runs.
Lee to begin a new over. The required run rate has crept up to around 6 and an over. Tendulkar facing. That's over the rope. 6 runs on Lee. That was 6 easy.
For the crowd, the ball is a spectacular action shot.
Now, here we go. of 9 balls. Runs wide. That must be close. That was a difficult decision, the umpire.
Well, Richie, that was very close. The umpire's given the batsman the benefit of their doubt. That was a tough decision for the umpire.
Lee is proving to be a little expensive. It's right at Harvey. I think he was easily back in the crease there. A hopeful shout, and the batsman was easily in. That over cost 12 runs.
That was a costly over. You can't afford to concede that many runs off an over at this stage.
McGrath to Tendulkar. The required run rate is around 6 and over. McGrath to bowl to Tendulkar. That's speeding to the boundary. Tendulkar moves into double figures with those runs. McGrath continues. .47 overs are left for India. Lee to begin a new over. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Stopped by Lehmann. Lee at the start of his run-up. Hit straight to a fielder. He looked as if he was home to me. Lee to bowl to Ganguly. Great shot by Ganguly. That's the first boundary for Ganguly. The total is now no wicket for 22. Ganguly facing. Well played, but the fielder will cut that one off. Collected by Lehmann. Lee to bowl. Ganguly has moved into the 20s and is starting to look far more relaxed. The score is now 2 for 54. Lee at the start of his run-up. That was an athletic stop by the keeper. This over is proving rather costly to Australia. That's a big appeal. No response from the umpire. Really, that was nothing more than a hopeful shout by the fielding team.
Yes, Richie, all this hopeful appealing is doing them no favours when the umpire has a close call to make. Not a difficult decision for the umpire.
India 2 for 55. Lee continues. Comfortably held by Lee.
Very safely taken. Soft hands, that's what's important.
Ganguly is finally out for 21.
He looked in good form out there. He'll be disappointed that he didn't get a bigger score.
Badani is the new batsman for India. That's the end of the 10th over. Now the run rate stands at just over 6 and over. Stopped by Harvey. .39 overs are left for India. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Those are the first runs for Badani. Lee to Dravid. Well bowled. 3, now for 56. That's too short, and it's been dispatched before. Played that with superb timing.
It was a good shot, but the bowler shouldn't be bowling at him there.
So they need 244 to win from 231 balls. Lee to Dravid. It's straight at Harvey. McGrath to begin a new over. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Badani waiting at the striker's end. McGrath at the start of his run-up. That is a perfect line.
He's got nothing to show for some pretty good bowling.
244, runs required. Played into the gap. Martin out there in the deep. There's a mix-up with the batsman. I think he was easily back in the crease there. McGrath to Badani. It's straight to a fielder. Well, let's take a look at the scorecard. We're about to see the first bowling change. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Warren to bowl to Dravid. Stopped by Bevan. There's a mix-up with the batsman. He looked as if he was home to me. Played into the gap. .36 overs are left for India. McGrath to Dravid. The required run rate has crept up to around 6.5 and over. Now that's a really superb shot. Dravid moves into double figures with those runs. McGrath at the start of his run-up. Dravid is now on strike. Hit straight at Harvey. McGrath continues. Great catch.
Well, he just picked the fielder out perfectly with that shot.
Dravid makes his way back to the dressing room. Sehwag awaits his first ball. Overpitched and thrashed away. That's the first boundary for Sehwag. The run rate stands at just under 6.5 and over. Hit straight to a fielder. Great piece of fielding. 2-3-2, runs required. Pushed into the gap. Harvey out at long on. He's worked that into the gap. Superb shot. That's the first boundary for Adani. 34 overs are left for India. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Hit straight to a fielder. Sehwag facing. Oh, that's a really superb shot. Played that with superb timing.
Everything was in the right place there. It fairly raced away to the boundary.
McGrath is back in the attack. McGrath to bowl to Shuag. That takes him into double figures. 33 overs are left for India. The required run rate has crept up to around 6.5 and over. Warne at the start of his run-up. Warne to Shuag. That's run away for 4. Super shot by Shuag.
That was a wonderful shot. He looks in great shape out there.
Hit straight at Simons. Well, that's found the gap in the field. Warne to bowl to Adani. Stopped by Ponting. 32 overs are left in the innings. McGrath to bowl the last of his allotted overs. The required run rate has crept up to around 6.5 and over. McGrath continues. Stopped by Hayden. Shuag is now facing. A long hop and punish. Super shot by Shuag.
Cracking shot. The secret there was that he got his feet into position early and had plenty of time to play the shot.
It's in the air and safe. That's a big appeal. The umpire's not moving on that one. All I can say is that it looked very, very close.
Yes, Richie, that looked absolutely plumb. I think the umpire got that one wrong, to be honest.
So they need 211 to win from 186 balls. Warne to bowl his leg spin. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. That's straight up in the air. That was 6 all the way.
Well, he really hit that a long way. Exciting stuff.
Looked as if he was home to me. Warne continues. Great shot, that's 4 all the way. He was onto that in a flash.
Well, he really latched onto that ball quickly and struck a venomous square drive to the cover boundary.
That moves the score into 3 figures for India. Warne is back in the attack. That's the end of the 20th over. We're about to see a change in the bowling. Now the run rate stands at just over 6.5 and over. Stopped by Lehman. The batsman was in trouble with that delivery.
I can't see how that missed the edge of the bat.
Super wicket keeping. India move on to 103. Didn't quite get hold of that one properly. Sehwag has moved into the 20s and is starting to look far more relaxed. .29 overs are left for India. Warne to begin a new over. The required run rate has crept up to around 6.5 and over. Not timed perfectly, but they'll get some runs anyway. The batsman will have to run these. The batsmen are coming back for a second. Sehwag waiting at the striker's end. India are 4 for 106. Warne at the start of his run-up. It's high in the air. That was a very confident shot.
Yes, that was a lovely shot. He will have enjoyed that one.
Warne at the start of his run-up. India have taken their total on to 4 for 110. .28 overs are left for India. Harvey to begin a new over. The required run rate has crept up to around 6.5 and over. There it goes. Badani has now moved into the 20s. I think he was easily back in the crease there. Badani waiting at the striker's end. Stopped by Lehmann. That's found the gap in the field. Stopped by Warne. 27 overs are left for India. We're going to see the off-spin of Simons. The required run rate has crept up to around 7 and over. That's gone high in the air. Super shot by Sehwag.
He picked his spot well there, a glorious boundary.
I think he was easily back in the crease there. Looked as if he was home to me. Hit straight at Lehmann. It's in the air. left in the innings. Harvey begin a new over. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Stopped by McGrath. Harvey, ball two-way. Harvey, ball two-way. There it goes.
That went up miles. By the time it came down.
She won. Eventually goes for 32.
He'll be kicking himself about that dismissal. He really didn't play that ball very well.
The next man in is Mongia. That's the first runs of the day for Mongia. That's the halfway mark. 25 overs. Simons to begin a new over. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Stopped by Ponting. Hit straight at Ponting. Simons continues. He didn't quite get hold of that one properly. Badani waiting at the striker's end. Hit straight at Ponting. That's straight up in the air. Wasn't a very good delivery.
He dispatched that for 4 with great confidence.
24 overs are left for India. Harvey to begin a new over. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Not timed perfectly, but they'll get some runs anyway. Harvey at the start of his run-up. That was an athletic stop by the keeper. There it goes. He looked as if he was home to meet. Harvey at the start of his run-up. Stopped by Lee. The required run rate has crept up to around 7.5 and over. There it goes. Out. No. Dropped. so they need 174 to win from 135 balls. Simons at the start of his run-up. The batsman will have to run these. That's straight up in the air. Rocked.
He seemed to completely misjudge the speed that ball was travelling at. Perhaps he lost it in the background.
5 for 131. Simons to bowl to Adani. That's straight up in the air. He picked the length quickly with that one.
That was a really good shot. He looks in top form out there.
The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Well played, but the fielder will cut that one off. Harvey is back in the attack. That bouncer had him in a great deal of difficulty. Adani is now on strike. It's in the air. That's a big appeal. Mongia waiting at the striker's end. Well, that's speeding to the boundary. That's the first boundary for Mongia.
He really had the batsman in trouble with that one.
Harvey continues. Overpitched and smashed the four. Mongia moves into double figures with those runs. 11 runs were picked up from that over by Harvey. The run rate stands at just under 7 and over. It's high in the air. That came right off the middle of the bat.
Well, he really hit that a long way. Exciting stuff.
5, now 4 and 52. It's high in the air. Hit down the ground beautifully by Adani.
It was a good shot, but the bowler shouldn't be bowling at him there.
Simons at the start of his run-up. Amazing catch.
Superb stuff. What a catch. That'll give his team a huge boost.
Adani is finally out for 42. That was a useful innings by Adani. Gurkha takes guard. Gurkha is off the mark. Simons at the start of his run-up. That's the end of the 30th over. Harvey to begin a new over. The run rate stands at just under 7 and over. Amazing catch.
Well taken. He never looked like dropping.
Gurkha goes for only 1. Khan is now facing. Harvey continues. Super bowling there. It might just have done too much.
His control of line and length has been brilliant out there today.
19 overs are left in the innings. Simons to begin a new over. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Stopped by Ponting. That's a lovely way to get off the mark. Simons continues. It's in the air. There's a mix-up with the batsman. The third umpire's been called for. Direct hit would have got him. 144 runs required. Simons to bowl to Khan. Pushed into the gap. Overs are left in the innings. Australia are making a change in the bowling. The required run rate has crept up to around 7.5 and over. Lee to Khan. There's a mix-up with the batsman. The batsman will have to run these. Mongia didn't look comfortable against that short ball.
That was an excellent bouncer. The batsman didn't look at all comfortable.
There should be some runs here. Khan facing. The required run rate has crept up to around 8 and over. Batsmen are turning for a third. Mongia waiting at the striker's end. Simons to bowl to Khan. There it goes, and he's got away with it. There it goes, but it'll drop safely. There's a mix-up with the batsman. Simons continues. It's in the air. Mongia has moved into the 20s and is starting to look far more relaxed. Nine runs came from that over for India. The required run rate is around 8 and over. Khan waiting at the striker's end. It's high in the air. Martin had to make up a lot of ground there. Khan makes his way back to the dressing room.
He kept his concentration really well. He had a long time to think about that before it came down.
Kumble is the new batsman for India. That's cleared the infield. That's the first boundary for Kumble. There's a mix-up with the batsman. It looks like the third umpire's being called on this one. They can't afford to go throwing away wickets. Simons to begin a new over. The required run rate has crept up to around 8 and over. There's a mix-up with the batsman. He looked as if he was home to me. Simons to bowl to Kumble. Played into the gap. That's straight up in the air. Simons to bowl to Kumble. Fourteen overs are left for India. Lee to begin a new over. The required run rate has crept up to around 8.5 and over. There it goes. He found the gap with precision.
He played that shot perfect.
Lee continues. Lee continues. A long hop and punished. Mongia very quickly onto that one.
He really laid into that delivery. 4 runs all the way.
That was a vicious delivery.
The batsman can't have any complaints about that. That's international cricket.
A nice shot, but it won't make it to the boundary. Thirteen overs are left in the innings. Simons to continue with his off-spin. The required run rate is around 8 and over. Simons at the start of his run-up. That's found the gap in the field. Mongia facing. Out, he's caught him.
That was a bad shot. He really seemed to lose concentration.
Mongia is finally out for 33.
He did well out there. Tailenders need to support the main batsman by making runs when they can.
The next batsman in is the right-handed Srinath. Shot, that is beautifully played. That's the first boundary for Srinath. The required run rate is looking more and more out of reach here. Well played, but the fielder will cut that one off. Didn't quite get hold of that one properly. The batsmen are coming back for 3. Picked up by Harvey. Well taken.
Great catch. That sort of thing can turn the course of a match.
So to sum up then, Australia win by 96 runs. Well, let's take a look at the scorecard. Lee has bowled 9 overs, 3 for 63.